Introducing Whisper Mitts, a new fingerless mitt pattern from Whooley Designs. These super fun mitts really can be made in just 5 hours. With cables that lean one way on one hand and the opposite way on the other, these DK weight mitts will keep you entertained. Whip up a pair or 3 pairs over the weekend and you will have fast and easy gifts ready to go at any time. What color will yours be? Let's get started. Before we get started with the actual crocheting of the Whisper mitts, I want to show you what tools and supplies you're going to need. We're going to start with yarn. You're going to need at least 240 yards of DK weight yarn. Now this is the brand I use, Tuscan Knits, for the sample. She is no longer in business, but I do have an extra skein, so I'm going to be using that as the sample that I'm going to show in these videos. But as long as it's a DK weight, I used her Cabin DK, which is superwash merino, cashmere, and nylon. It's 10% cashmere and 10% nylon, and the rest is superwash merino. Next, you're going to need a crochet hook. I used a size H, which is a 5mm crochet hook. This is what I recommend to start with. However, your gauge may be different with this crochet hook than mine is. So in order to get the gauge and what you want to do in order to make the mitts fit properly, you're going to want to go up or down a hook size if you tend to crochet loosely or tightly. So I would start with the 5mm and then figure out if your gauge is correct. And if your gauge is correct, you can use the same hook I used. But remember, in all of my patterns, the hook is a recommendation. So those are the two main things you're going to need. You're also going to need scissors to be able to clip the yarn. You're going to need a steel tapestry needle. These are my preference with the bent tip on them. I'd recommend steel versus plastic because the plastics tend to have ridges on them and they tend to tear into the yarn. So I recommend that you don't use anything but steel needles. And the last thing I wanted to show you is that we need 2 locking stitch markers. These are the kind I use for this particular type of project. These are kind of like light bulb style safety pin closing locking stitch markers, and you're going to be using these to actually seam up the mitts before you put the thumbs in. So those are the tools you're going to need. And before anything else, I will make sure that I'll have some links to some of these products in the show notes. But other than that, let's get started. All right, as you can see, I have started the first mitt. Now, I've already done the first 2 rows of the mitt. I'm going to grab some yarn here so I don't have to fuss with it later. But the first 2 rows, the first row is the foundation single crochet stitch. If you don't know how to do that, I do have a video about how to do that, and I'll link that in the show notes. But also the second row and every even row is just a straight up single crochet all the way across. So you can see that I've done that already. I wanted to start this video with showing you how to do the cable. Now, one little thing to mention about the pattern itself, the pattern lists the mitts as a left mitt and a right mitt, and that is because you'll notice on the mitts, they are a little bit different in that the left mitt, what I call the left mitt because I am right-handed, shows the left leaning cables, and the right mitt shows the right leaning cables. Now, if you are left-handed, you are going to create the right mitt using the instructions for the left mitt, and you're going to be creating the left mitt using the instructions for the right mitt. So unfortunately that is not listed in the pattern, but I will put that in my errata so that you know that. But I am going to try to make this video as easy to follow for both lefties and righties. Okay, so we're going to start with row 3, and row 3 starts with a chain 1 and turn, and then you're going to single crochet in the first 4 stitches. So 1, 2, 3, and 4. Okay, so there's your first 4 single crochets. Then it says to front post double crochet around the next 4 single crochets 2 rows below. So what that means is, instead of working on the top of the stitch, we're going to do a front post double crochet. Now I always count over from the bottom. We're going to work around the bottom single crochets. So I count over 4 because I worked those 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. So the first front post double crochet is going to be around this next stitch here, where you can see my fingernails are coming through. So you're going to yarn over, and you are going to do a front post double crochet, which works around the post. So you're working from front to back to front again around the post. So we're going to do 4 of those. So here's the second one. So insert, come out the other side, and double crochet. I'm going to do 2 more of those. Now the one thing you need to remember too is there's 3 sizes in this pattern. So I am doing the smallest size for this video. So I have a total of 24 stitches going across. You may be doing one of the larger sizes. So if you are, you may have more stitches than I do here at the end. But I wanted to show you to make sure that you always end up with the same stitch count. So in my case, there's going to be 24. So I've already done 8 of those 24. But you'll notice the top of the stitches that I worked 2 rows below are still there. And we want to make sure that we skip 4 stitches in the back and start the single crochets in the next stitch. So you can see here, there's 1, let me make sure, 1, 2, 3, 4. So my next single crochet is going to be right here where I'm putting my hook through. So I'm going to do that single crochet. Oops, I just need to pull my yarn back up here. There we go. So I need to do my next one in here. And then if you flip the work really fast, I wanted to put that there, you can see that I have the 4 skip stitches here. That's one of the keys with cables and there's post stitches in general, to make sure that you have the right number of stitches skipped before you start the next single crochet going across. So I'm going to do the single crochets going all the way across to the end, and then I'm going to do row 4, which is just a row of single crochets. Like I said, every even row is just a row of single crochets, and then we'll come back with row 5. Okay, I'm back, and I just wanted to show you here that I am done with row 4. And before we go to row 5, I want to show you the back. When I did row 4, I only worked through the double crochets at the top. I did not work over the stitches that are underneath it that I skipped. There are some crocheters who do that, and for the purposes of this class and this mitt, you don't want to do that because you're going to end up with extra bulk right here. So make sure that you don't work through these. You're just going to have a ridge there of stitches, and it just makes it a little bulk there, but the stitches are going to be far cleaner on the front side when we are finished with our gloves or with our mitts. So row 5, we are going to start row 5 the same way we did before, with a chain 1 and then single crochet in the next 4 stitches. 2, 3, and 4. Now you're going to do the same thing we did on row 3, where we're going to front post in the next 4 stitches 2 rows below, but this time instead of working around single crochets, it's going to be a little bit easier this time because we're going to be working around the double crochets. Now if I get this a little closer, you can see the double crochets right here, that they're not super embossed yet. They don't sit really high off the fabric. So this next row is going to make those pop up. So we're going to yarn over and we're going to go around, making sure we just get the post of the double crochet, and then do a front post and a front post and a front post and one more front post. They're all double crochets. These are the only stitches that are double crochets, are the ones that create the cable. Now, if I take my hook out here for a second, you can see that they're sitting up a little higher on the fabric. So now the rest of the row is just single crochet, and then row 6 will be single crochet all the way across. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. Don't forget that you need to make sure you skip those 4 stitches before you start your next single crochet. And then once we're done with row 6, you can come back and I'll show you how to do the twist. Okay, I just completed row 6, and I actually started row 7 by doing the first 4 single crochets. There's always going to be 4 single crochets before the cable starts. That doesn't matter. That's for the smallest size. If you are making any of the larger sizes, I should have mentioned this earlier, there'll be either 4, 6, or 8 before you start your cable. That's just depending on what size you are making. So in my case, I've got the 4, and now I'm ready to do the front posts to make the twist. So I'm going to show you how to do that here really quick. We're going to yarn over first. This is row 7, just as a reminder. And you're going to skip the first 2 post stitches here, and we're going to go to these last 2 post stitches, and we're going to do front post stitches around those 2 posts. So we're going to do that, 1 and 2. So I'm going to show you that here really quick. So you can see that these 2 have been skipped, and I've done post stitches right here. So now what we're going to do to make the twist is we're going to go back to these 2 post stitches, and we're going to just work right over the top here, and we're going to start with the one farthest away and do a post stitch around each one of those. So there's the first one, and there is the second one. Now it's not going to look super neat right now. I'm going to take my hook out here really quick, grab some yarn so I can bring it a little closer. It's not super neat, but you can see that these 2 stitches here are crossing over the first 2 that we made over here. So now what we're going to do is finish this row and then do row 8, and I will come back and show you the finished product and talk about how to finish the crocheting part of the mitt. Okay, I've finished row 8. And I wanted to show you a close-up here of the cable. You can see that they're crossed over, and I've got a row of single crochet on the top. Now it looks more like a twisted cable, and you can see that it's going in this direction. So every cable on this particular mitt is going to go in that same direction. Now for row 7, we're going to go back to just doing straight up front post double crochet in order without twisting. In order to do that, though, we have to find the first 2 double crochets, which are laying underneath the 2 here that twist on top. So you kind of want to pull these aside here, and you can kind of see here are the 2 doubles right here between my thumbs. Those are the 2 doubles. So we were going to work on those first. So we're going to go under and do a front post there. And then we're going to push those aside again. Don't be afraid to push your stitches. You will find that they are very willing to jump back into the same spot that they were in just a minute ago. So now we got the first 2. Now we're going to do the 2 that are laying across the top. So there's 1 and there's 2. Okay, so I'm going to, before I go any further, I'm going to take those off, take the hook off there. And you can see that we are now going straight up and down again with our post stitches. So the way this is going to work now is you're going to do 2 rows of straight up and down post stitches, then a twisted row, then 2 rows of straight up and down, and then 1 row of twisted. And you're going to do that for a total of 42 rows. Doesn't matter which size you're using, it's just that the length is going to be the same. The stitch count across each row is what helps with the width of your hand, but the row count, they're all the same as far as height. So row 42 is actually going to be the single crochet on top of the second straight up and down post stitches. So I'm going to go ahead and finish this mitt, going up to row 42. And when I'm done, we will jump to the next video and I'll show you how to seam it and add the thumb.